Today's the day, folks. I've been waiting for well over a year for this. Dealing with that road range conveyor and the crappy green belt. So today my chain and paddle drive with sprockets is in. Believe it or not, this is the first truck driver that actually used the drive exactly the way it's supposed to be used versus stopping in the middle of the road. Right on. I think I'm going to pull the conveyor over here versus bringing the tools and everything over there, primarily because it's going to be about 100 pounds cumulative that I'm going to be working with to get that, and I don't want to be doing it over my trailer. I have been fighting this conveyor belt ever since, day one when I got it. It was just been nothing but a pain in the ass trying to get it to work right. Alright. Probably about 86, 87 degrees out. With about 60, 70% humidity. So it's hot. I am not a fan of these ball hitches. I'd much rather have a pintle. Just make it a lot easier. These cheap ball hitches don't do a very good job of going in. As soon as it goes in, it pushes the lever up. It was going to cost me about $1,000, about $860 for the chain with the tabs on it, and that's it. And then I was going to have, about $860 for two equally sized sprockets to fit a 1-inch shaft and 50 feet of number 60 ag chain, with every 20 inches having the tabs on the links so that I could bolt on some angle iron. And then I was going to have to come up with the shaft to put in the pillow blocks, and I was going to have to also come up with the steel to make the paddles. So the total for this setup that Range Road had made specifically for this, to basically just retrofit it, was, with shipping, $195 in shipping from Pennsylvania for that small pallet. It's crazy. And then the rest was for the actual paddle chain system and the sprockets and the shafts. So it was literally last week that I was actually pricing stuff out, and then before I pulled the trigger, I just said, I'm gonna go ahead and email this guy one more time just to see if they've come in stock, because I need to get this changed out before this cutting season. He's like, oh, we're supposed to get them in about a week or two, and then he emailed me a couple of days later, oh, it's supposed to be in a week, and oh, we're getting them next week. So bam, ordered it. So that's the complete get up right there. I'm not sure exactly how many paddles it has per feet. I'm not even sure if it has instructions. I'm just gonna have to wing it. I'm just hoping that everything actually works and I don't have to take this thing apart and put it back together in its current form because something's missing. So we shall see. Here's another thing I don't like about this. This rotted almost immediately in the sun, and that pin came out for the lever, and then these are obviously just Chinesium parts, so eventually I'm gonna have to replace all this stuff. But it's either this or, you know, 10-15 grand for a better conveyor, which I can't afford right now, and I don't foresee any time in the near future getting something that expensive when this works just fine, especially if the chain and paddle works like it's supposed to compared to the crappy green belt. It is now 11:30 a.m. and I'm going to try and do a comprehensive video on how to install this. Can't make no guarantees because it's pretty hot outside, but I will do my best. Let's see what we got. Well, it's packaged decently, at least. Just a shipping tag. And another thing about getting this versus making my own is this comes with the serrated paddles versus the just the angle iron I was going to have to put on there. And this isn't angle iron, this is actually pressed pressed 1/4 inch steel. Now the chain is almost identical. The chain that I was going to get was made in USA. They were going to actually assemble it every 20-inch tabs, and they welded these onto the tabs versus bolting, which, you know, whatever. But I was going to have to use angle iron, and these are actually pressed and bent serrated pieces, which should grab the wood a little bit better than just my angle iron that I was going to have to use. Now, I would imagine that this is going to rust like crazy because it's not treated. So I'm going to have to keep it lubricated pretty good. So this has got shafts that have the keys in them. It drives me nuts when I get merchandise that has stickers that don't peel off and tape, and just ugh. The shafts and sprockets are galvanized, so that's good. So this one apparently doesn't require a slot and key. This one does. It seems like it's pressed in there. The humidity is really bad right now. So this design has these little rollers to kind of keep it guided in the center, which did not work at all under any circumstances. It basically just curled up around it. So the wire that holds this together is basically just thrashed. I'll probably just cut the wire and try and pull it out where it's not mangled up. That way, if I have to use this to wait for any additional parts that might not be included, I can still do that. So I'm gonna get some side dikes and cut that and pull it out. Make sure I collect all these little doodads so they don't end up in my tires. Basically like staples. Okay. Now this is rusting out right there, where it's basically rubbing across the powder coat. So I would foresee that that would just rust all the way through with this belt on it. Now, as long as I keep this lubricated, you know, sand this down, coat it with something, and then keep the chain and the conveyor lubricated. I would imagine that it should mitigate any future rust, because there's nothing sitting on it, just letting it rust through. And this is probably 14 gauge steel, and it's consistently all over, all up and down. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 13 spots, just the high spots where it's just rubbing it. So I'm going to grind that down and coat it while I got it open. And this shows how humid it is today. Just pouring sweat down the front of my glasses. One flaw with this machine and its design, which, I mean, it is what it is. When I got it, I knew this. And the other option was a strap. So I wanted something, and the reason I chose this one is because of this hydraulic cylinder here that lifts and lowers the conveyor. And I didn't want to have to be like ratchet. I wanted it to be up and down to where I needed it to be for time saving. The only problem with it is obviously hydraulics bleed by. So over time it lowers itself to a point of where it actually rests on top of the dump trailer, which is fine. One problem is that if you do not stay on top of it and you are absolutely 100% sure that you're not going to have the machine on with it sagging down, it's got to be up high, is these little flapper things right here will hit on both sides. So it can't be any lower to the point of where it actually hits these sides. Now, where this will be a problem is the chain and the paddles, because when the chain and the paddles are draped across under here, there's nothing to support them except for the front and rear sprocket. Where I see an issue is if it's low enough, it's going to hit, or if it sags, it's going to hit the trailer, the dump trailer wood sides, which is fine because it's just wood, but it's going to hit, and I don't know what it'll do to this, whether it just stalls because the hydraulics can't push it anymore, or if it starts damaging something. We'll see. So I just have to stay on top of the fact that when I'm running this, I have to hit the hydraulics and bring it up every time and just keep an eye on it sagging, because while you're working, it'll start sagging. The other option is for me to build some type of contraption, because all this right here this just rests on top of it right here. That's all that's for. So if I can build a contraption that when I am in operation mode and I don't ever intend on moving this from where it's going to permanently be, I can build something that I can put on here and props it up, so no matter if the hydraulics sag or not, it's never going to lower enough to where if me or somebody else starts this and it starts coming on through, where the paddles are going to strike this and basically just start bending crap. So we'll see. This is definitely one of those you get what you pay for scenarios. And I knew what I was getting into when I got this, and I'm still happy with it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to slam Range Road. It's just, it's got some things that I think can be better, which they are now, because now there is an available chain and paddle versus the crappy belt system. The other issue was these. I had to build these because the wood would just hit and fly out. Which was easy enough to do. Now most of the time that it's going to take to do this retrofit is going to be me getting the correct tools to do the job versus already having the tools on hand. So this is going to be for the drive, just a single sprocket. And so I'm going to need a set of Allen wrenches, and I'm going to need to take those off. I ended up having to adjust this so much that I just went out and bought another set of wrenches to keep outside so that I could adjust it constantly just to get it to work. So once I get this installed, I don't foresee, especially since it's a number 60 chain, I don't foresee an issue where I'm going to have a problem getting this to work. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and, while I'm doing all this, grind that down so that I can paint it. And then hopefully it'll be dry by the time I put the chain on. So what I did there was sacrificed an older flapper wheel to get majority of the rust and the paint off, and now I'm going back and I'm using a new one to get the down to bare metal below the pitting, because if you leave the pitting there, it's not really going to do much to stop the rust. Now another problem I have is due to the heat that the grinding wheel is creating, it's going to affect the powder coat on the bottom side as well, so that'll start rusting too. So I've got good old xylene. I use xylene to clean prep for paint. That's what we used when we were painting the utility bodies for the company I worked for back in the 90s. Quick drying removes a lot of the crap that prevents the paint from sticking. Seems to also do a pretty good job of dissolving a little bit of the paint so that you get a little bit of a chemical bond. It softens the paint up. Okay, back to the disassembly. Get some PB blaster to start working on these Allen screws. Dang it. I'm going to use these ball joint or pickle wrenches, but they're not wide enough. I don't necessarily want to have to take all this off. There we go. A little better. Let's just pull it out this side. Long shaft. So I've got to get the drive shaft out of the actual sleeve that is on the shaft of the wheel. I had to switch to air conditioning mode. It is toasty out. So it's not a 1/2 inch, it's got to be a 13 or a 14. 13. There we go. Get out there. Ah, yes. Whew. The shaft is just rusted to hell. Okay, so this replaced that shaft. This goes into the pillow bearing, and this goes into the sleeve. So now I have to get the sleeve off the shaft. Easier said than done because it's rusted on there. Hopefully it comes off easier out versus in. So pretty sure I'm going to have to take the hoses off, put the shaft in the vise with the motor hanging down, and then start tapping on the motor housing to drop it out of the sleeve, because there's just no way to get that out where it's at. That way I know which one goes where. Try to lose as little hydraulic fluid as possible. Okay. That was coming. So what we've got is an incredibly soft, non-galvanized steel shaft, or steel sleeve with a key, as well as an ungalvanized, crappy shaft. So I'm gonna go put this back together. Enough to get the bolt on and to draw it in by tightening it. Everything's so sticky and wet, hot. Just put my arm on this metal, burning it. Basically, I'm walking the sleeve onto the shaft. You can hear it when it starts tightening down, it starts binding up. Then you can hear it go plunk, which it basically straightens it out and pulls it on. So I have to keep going back and forth until I hear that thump, whatever you call it. And then switch back to the other side. Like that. That basically allowed the sleeve to not bind and slip in. Final stretch. And there we go. Last one. All right, that's it. Killing my back. Whew. Oh, this heat is killing me. Put the grub screws back in. Easier to access now. There we go. Oh, come on. Gotta get that on there before it starts leaking everywhere. There we go. Trying to get this grub screw. There we go. Ugh. Had to get wet again. It's getting hot out here. I think the highest is supposed to be like 88 today. There's probably like a 3 to 5 mile per hour wind coming from the southwest. Come on. So it's 1 o'clock now, and it took me an hour and a half to get that bottom side done and the rest treated. I mean, some of the time obviously is going back and forth getting tools that I need. They're moving the camera around, but still, if it were about 70 degrees out, it wouldn't take that long. I went over and got my hat wet again 3 times now. You can tell that the Chinese galvanization that they use isn't the best, because just having this adjustment screw in the hole, just sitting there for 2 years, has rusted the galvanized coating off. All right, so to get that off, I'm thinking probably 15 millimeter. And the bad thing about this whole setup is the nuts are larger size than the bolts on all of it for some reason, which drives me mad. Insane. Before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and loosen these grub screws to get this off. Because if not, I have a feeling I'll forget and try and beat them off. That's what she said. This shouldn't be that hard. That's what she said. Because it's just 2 shafts. That's what she said. So what size is this? Walking into my garage, which typically stays a consistent 75 degrees, feels like an ice box. What the hell? It's a 17 millimeter that was on a 16 millimeter peg. Pretty sure that there is not a side that is correct, and one is for one direction, one's the other direction, because it's just this sprocket here has a a wider piece, which is just part of the sprocket. So they put these guides on both sides. So I don't believe there's a particular side it has to be on. There's enough wind going right now that I would imagine if we had total cloud cover, because I mean, if we got cloud cover, it's just a haze. But if we had no sun coming through, it'd be quite nice out here right now. Even with the humidity, because of the wind. It's picked up to about 5 to 7 miles per hour now. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and push this thing entirely up against the bracket, and then use the bracket adjustments to adjust it. And as far as adjusting in and out, or left and right, I'm just going to center it. And then use the grub screws to tighten it down. I think that took like 15 minutes to do this one. The majority of the time was dealing with disassembling the bottom side with the rusted out shaft. Time to get some chain out. Being that there's no instructions with this, I'm going to refer to the photo of the RR503, which is now listing for $29.95, so that I can see which direction the chain goes. The pictures aren't the best. Oh, let me see the bottom one. Okay, so, well, no, that looks like a shadow. It looks like the fold up. No, well, that's different. Okay, so it looks like the fold up is trailing. So this is the bottom, and then I got to roll it uphill. Oh! It probably weighs about 75 pounds, 60 pounds. Ah! And the paddles are every 12 inches. Gotta make sure not to get under this and get clapped. Definitely need 2 people to do this efficiently. There's nothing holding this top wheel from spinning, so I pretty much gotta lift all the weight. That's not long enough. This heat is taking it out again. So now, the problem is that I have to have all these paddles go over all these pieces of metal. The motor, the hydraulic motor won't spin unless it's on. So I'm going to have to get a clamp and clamp these two together. Get this temporary link off here. I'm also going to buy some extra links, quick links, so that I can have spares. There we go. Oh, this thing is hot, sitting in the sun. All right, it's attached. Bad thing is every now and then I'll hit the wrong lever and it'll engage this track, the gear motor, hydraulic motor, and it'll boom, 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 boom. I can't do nothing. I'm gonna have to paint that bad boy so that it does the right one. The last thing I need to do is have that paddle system come across the motor and just rip the hoses and the motor and the supports off. So what I'll do is, when this is running, when I get it up and running, I'll take some orange spray paint and just while it's running, so the track will have orange on it, and then I'll spray paint the track lever orange. Next thing I'm going to have to do to this is make grizzly bars that won't interfere with all this business end. I'm getting a lot of scrap into the trailer, which kind of makes it a pain to stack the wood. I've only got about another 2¼ inches to go before I run out of adjustment. And that hasn't really, well, I guess it has. Yeah, I lifted up some. The sag is deceiving looking. And these 2 plates here are to keep wood from getting in there and making it jump off its track, or have the chain jump off the sprocket. That would be my idea of what it is anyway, my powers of keen observation and deduction. Yeah, that actually pulled it up pretty tight. tighter than I thought it would be. So, looks are deceiving. So now, I have to get this pretty much adjusted equally. Let's not mess this up. Not too bad. All right, there you go. So that's how you retrofit the Range Road 502 with the Range Road 503 chain and paddle. Pretty easy to do, self-explanatory, didn't really need instructions. You just have to reverse everything you did when you put it together. Looks are deceiving. The chain looked like it was too long when I first put it on because it was draping across everything, but as soon as I tightened the tensioner down there, it pulled it nice and tight along the bottom, so there's not very much drooping. I don't think I'll have to worry about putting a guide or something for it to travel in. You just got to make sure that you know which lever controls the chain and paddle versus which lever controls the hydraulic lift. Because if you have it down like this and you pull the wrong lever, what'll happen is the chain will start moving in whichever direction you push it, and it'll start grabbing things underneath, namely the engine, the hydraulic hoses, the conveyor bed support bar, or the conveyor lift structure, and that's no bueno. So one thing that I used to do, and I cannot and I will not do anymore, because the belt was not that big of a deal. I could just reach, and if the belt started moving and it grabbed me, it just basically, bumped me because it's rubber. But you do not want to start the engine on this side and come over and come through underneath and hit a lever to basically start anything. So just take the time, start it, walk around, lift it, and start the chain and paddles, because if you reach under there and you start it and then you try to cheat and you put your hand through there to raise the conveyor or start the chain, this will grab you, and it's not going to be fun when it does. As you can see, I spray painted the paddles orange and then spray painted the paddle lever orange so that I could identify easily, because there have been times like when I came back out here a few weeks ago and I started messing with it, because I haven't split wood in 6 months because of my knee surgery. When I came out here, I couldn't remember which lever was which, and you would end up and it basically was resting on top of the wood of the dump trailer, and I hit the wrong one and it started pulling the belt, and the belt's like boom, boom, boom on the wood. It didn't hurt anything, but these paddles will. So I don't know how strong this is and what it will take to stop it, but I don't want to find out. Hydraulics are not to be trifled with. So that concludes this video. I'm going to burn that belt. I don't need it anymore. Been the bane of my existence for the past 2 years. I'm going to move this back over, and I'm going to chuck some wood in it and try to see if I can get it to stick or get stuck, and also start thinking about ideas for some grizzly bars to build on this.
I can tell you right now that already it struggles a little bit to get the piston to raise, because it's pulling in, the cylinder is pulling in to raise this, and the more weight I add onto it, the harder it's going to work. So I don't know if it's because I've got the thing adjusted down, but I would imagine that might be it. It's all rusted. I'll probably get some kind of a newer one that's not so crappy, so that I can adjust it to increase the pressure to raise it, because I have to really yank on it and give it a good pull and hold it down to get it to raise it. Yeah, so success. I would encourage you to get with Gary Gatz, I think his name is, Gary at Range Road. He was really good about communicating. When I first emailed him a couple years ago when I first got this, I said, hey, I'm having problems with this belt basically traveling to the right or the left. He immediately responded and said, no problem, take that top drum and take the guides off of it so it'll allow it to travel a little bit easier. That worked a little bit, but about every 5 to 15 minutes I would have to come and grab the belt and either push or pull it underneath to guide it to the center, because no matter what, it would just eventually start working its way to the left and the right, and it just mauled the belt. But you know, he was in constant communication, and I believe he took that information and probably other customers that called him and said, hey, you know what, the French toast, and he came up with this, or the next model, the Range Road RR503. Ended up being the chain and paddle, which in my opinion, great move. I don't know how much it increased the cost, but it's definitely worth the retrofit. And then probably about, I don't know, 6 months to a year after, I just had enough, and I'm like, look, do you have, oh actually, no, it's probably about a year after, I was like, I've had enough, I'm gonna retrofit this to chain and paddle myself. And then I went to his website. Lord behold, there's an RR503 with this. So I immediately emailed him and said, hey, do you have a retrofit for this? He goes, not at the moment, but they're on order, and I'm not sure when we'll get them in, but as soon as I do, I'll let you know. So it was probably about 6 months ago that I emailed him just to check in, because again, I've had enough of the green belt. And he said, probably in about another 6 months, we should get them in. And then literally probably 3 weeks ago, I was like, I can't wait. So I got online and started searching chain link attachments and chain 60, number 60 agricultural chain, and got a quote for $800 something that included the 2 sprockets with 1 inch diameter holes for shafts, which means I'd have to make my own shafts, and the chain with every 20 inches an attachment point, and then I was going to have to put some angle iron on the attachment points, either weld them or bolt them. I was probably going to bolt them because I didn't want to affect the chain, and I also didn't want to have to pop every single one of the links off and then weld it and pop them back on. So basically I was like, before I pull the trigger on this, I'll go ahead and email Gary one more time. He's like, oh yeah, we're supposed to have him in 1 to 2 weeks. I'm like, oh well, that makes it easy. So I emailed him a week later and said, how are we looking? And he's like, they should be in next week. And I was like, roger that. And then he emailed me and said, they're in, and this is the cost. I need your address. Gave my address, $195 shipping from Pennsylvania to Indiana, freight. And then probably $680, I think, total, $650. Like $400 something for this plus the shipping, but well worth the modification and the time to do it. So I'm rambling at this point because I'm probably suffering from heat stroke. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day all in. After I get all this stuff put up, I'm going to go in and sit in the air conditioning and sit in front of my sewing machine and watch some movies while I make some product for my company. Before I do that, I'm going to turn this back on. I'm going to raise it up, turn it back on. I'm going to move it, raise it up, turn it back on, and then spray some of my chain lube on the chain just to give it some extra protection. I use it for motorcycle chains. It's more of like a white lithium grease that sticks and it doesn't just run off, because I imagine this chain's going to rust pretty quick because it's made in China. So just to give you an idea of how hot it is right now. Earlier today, this, which is a gel, had a bunch of holes in it from when I dip the weld head or the welding nozzle in, so it takes the shape of the welding nozzle. it is completely melted into a liquid. So one problem I see is at the top where it's got these little wings, it's using standard bolts. And when a piece of wood hits that bolt, it catches and jerks the conveyor. So what I'm going to do is take those wings and replace the bolts with carriage bolts so that they're rounded instead of just regular bolts, especially since that's probably where the grizzly bars are going to mount. I'm going to put it on my back. So a sure sign that you're about to be a heat casualty is cold chills and lightheadedness, dizziness, loose stool, meaning sensation that you're about to, go in your pants. And with me, I have IBS. Too much information I know, but this is a part of it. So I get a little crampy, and then obviously shortness of breath and cold chills and dizziness. So get out of the heat, or if you can't get out of the heat because you got to keep pushing on and you want to push yourself, which I feel fine, it's just a little bit of the aforementioned conditions that I mentioned. I still have to put all this stuff up before I can go inside. So, way to mitigate that is get in some water. So, a way to give yourself an extra boost is spray your head down completely until you don't feel that way anymore with a shower of water, and then also spray your upper torso if you can, which I did, and like I said, I feel fine now. And I still need to spray this chain lube on the chain. Alright, that's it. All in all, I'm pleased with it. I would definitely recommend getting the upgrade. Gary Gatt, I believe his name is, with Range Road, is the guy you want to talk to. It's a 5.5 or RR503 chain and paddle set and sprocket shaft upgrade kit for the RR502. So thanks for watching Fabricating Firewood. My name's Matt. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. I'm going to go in and collapse in the air conditioning. Oh, one more thing. Another sign of heat stroke or becoming a heat casualty. Slurred speech obviously, but auditory exclusion. When you start breathing in and you can hear your ears feel like you're underwater, that is typically another sign of heat stroke or becoming a heat casualty. So I'm getting there.